This was one of the most fascinating weeks of my life, and I can't even believe I'm saying that right now. I bet I went through, well, I did a lot of research. I wrote a ton, and I kept wadding it up and throwing it away. Very frustrating process, but of course we made it. And what happened was very revealing in the end. So hang around, Marx Headroom here. I want to try to explain a little bit here about what happened this week and where we're going, and just tell you what's up. And we have a small viewership here, and I've gotten a better feel for what it's like to have a small but meaningful viewership, because I watched some of the research I did began after watching this thing called the Manosphere, a documentary on Netflix that exposed the hypocrisy of some online masculinity influencers who were filling the void of people. And actually, by investigating that deeply and just kind of following the rabbit, if you will, it really provided a lot of clarity, I believe, into what's going on in the world today and what has really been driving a lot of my curiosity, because I've seen into these places that are becoming more and more transparent to all of us today. And we have these old categories about who we are and how we are supposed to behave in groups and in society, and what our roles are. Engineer, electrician, plumber, wife, husband, student, and you can go on and on. Or maybe rich person or owner, or poor person, drug user. Those categories are often assigned so quickly and to people that we know and ourselves, and those roles get confined. And I began really unraveling this idea about these categories and how we want to hold people into them, like there's some kind of loyalty or value, maybe an earned value of respect, for someone's loyalty to a system, an institution, or identity with a role, a profession that totally overrides their ability to deal in the moment and process the now. And with all the transparency that's coming at us today, with what we see on the news, with what we, read online, and then the multiple channels that we have streaming, and friends that are constantly repeating information, and often we're so far from having an understanding of the detail or of the it's kind of like the Middle East, where you've got this stuff going on over there. You have to try to find something to really get a feel for what's really happening. What is the real story? You got Iran saying they're not talking to Trump, and Trump saying I'm talking to Iran. And then in the meantime, you've got both sides dropping bombs that make both of them sound like you're not getting the full story. And so what I'm talking about here is having your own sense of self and being complete enough, at least. And maybe if you know that you don't have maybe an engineering mind, you need to find someone that does, that you trust. And it does come down to ultimately developing local, like in community, and finding your tribe and your people that you believe and trust, to decipher what's really happening in the world and in your life and your community. So I put together a something that's coming out on Saturday night, and I'm delivering it in a format of, kind of guised as comedy, because these old roles that we have as influencer or coach or wise man or entertainer or journalist, those have all, it's easy to get kind of missing the point of trying to find a way to totally be alive in the moment. And so through writing that series of the Awakening Chronicles, I found myself really identifying with several characters in there. And that one guy was called Tariq, and he was using comedy for healing and for helping crowds and individuals both kind of, not kind of, but actually transform and make real changes. And I think if we do learn to observe, laugh, if it hits it, emotionally. So I'm using comedy not as if it's entertaining, fine. If it's something that someone wants to, protest or throw rocks at, fine. But the main thing is to engage, because I'm on something. I'm a survivor that has been through high and low, through various institutions in life, business, art, athletics, church, and I'm still here. And I haven't lost total faith in our ability to be in the moment and to create a better life. And I think it may take a few generations, possibly. I don't have high expectations that I'm going to walk out of this room or someone's going to watch a show or read a book and actually change. Change has to start from the inside, and it's got to start somewhere. With all this transparency that we've been bombarded with, we can easily see that story is used to manipulate and control, and can easily distract from the real connection that we have with individuals, with the loved ones, with our friends, with the things that we enjoy doing that may contribute to society. And then we get hijacked by these things that move so fast with technology that you can easily, go overseas and pretend with maybe some of these, what do they call them, fans only, that you've got a girlfriend that's not here, but they meet some need artificially that is ultimately, you say there's nothing wrong with it. And I'm not here to judge. Everything has its own timing. But the fact is that the more real that we are in our lives, and the more that we see what's really going on and how we're getting led into some of the the capitalist model, of everything having a value. And if you watch the Manosphere documentary, you'll see that the hypocrisy is mind-blowing. It will literally, watch it for yourself. Come back and tell me what you find. But the people that I've encountered that have come across it describe, it's a cognitive dissonance that occurs, that you cannot really see and comprehend how these things can coexist with each other, and how so much wealth could be generated from it. And I think that's precisely the point. And I've been exposed to that since I was a little kid back in the early 70s and the late 60s. And so part of my story is, it's not over, and I'm still here. And I've got something to say, and some of this is unfolding as I'm sitting here talking. And that's what's been happening with me this week. I've been writing and researching and asking questions and getting feedback and looking at that path that is unwinding right now. So I hope you're in a safe place, and I hope you'll tune in actually for Saturday night, 7 o'clock on YouTube when I'm releasing this. And then I put it out there on Substack and TikTok, Facebook, and even on roachcreative.com. So hope you're doing well, and thanks for your engagement here. It means the world to me, and I hope it ultimately ends up meaning the world to you.